Hey everybody, I just got back from Finding Dory. So, it's a great movie, man. I loved it. I loved this movie. It was so good. uh, I wasn't ever like a hugest fan of Finding Nemo. I don't hate it or anything. I actually like it a lot. But it's never been my favorite of the Pixar movies. I've always liked like The Incredibles or Toy Story or like Ratatouille. So I I don't. I always thought like, well, does Finding Nemo need another like a sequel? I mean, I know it's popular, but did we really need it? But thankfully, I was pleasantly surprised that that this movie not only was good, I thought it was better than Finding Nemo. And it's a pretty good shock, but I'm glad I was glad to be wrong on this one. But anyway, so let's get into it. The short Piper that came right before the movie was really good. The animation was stellar. The it looks so realistic. The birds, they were like this little bird just tries to get this food for like the whole little short. But I thought it was really cute and it was fun. I like that. It was a good like little short to bring us in. Anyway, the movie opens with Dory and her family, and she gets like they're enjoying their time, but she's like a baby right now. But all of a sudden gets swept up and she loses her parents, and so she starts like as a baby. She's trying to get she tries to find them, but then keeps losing her memory, and eventually runs into Marlin, like in Finding Nemo, how they both run into each other, and then like it's kind of a neat little way like to just kind of recap real quickly, like oh yeah she runs into Marlin, and then so we cut to like present day where she's living with Marlin and Nemo, and Nemo like she's just hanging out having fun with them. All of a sudden she starts remembering that her parents they're somewhere around there. So she goes out and finds them, and Nemo and Marlin join her. And so it starts out like kind of like how Finding Nemo was, where okay, we're going on this big grand adventure. But thankfully, it segues into a more it's at this aquarium, so we don't have to go all around the place. We're like centered at this one aquarium instead, so it makes it a lot more interesting. We're at this aquarium instead, and we meet all these cool fish. Like there's this. I love Hank the octopus. He's one of the greatest additions to this film, where he suffers from anxiety, like sort of like anxiety issues, where he doesn't like being touched or anything. I can kind of definitely relate to that. I have like a mild form of autism, and thankfully I'm fine. I can handle situations really good nowadays. But I identified with him a little bit. He was a great character. I liked the little joke he has. Since he doesn't have like an extra arm, he's not an octopus, he's a septopus. So it was a little cute. But the other characters in this film, there's like a whale shark that is nearsighted. I thought, oh, that's cool. They're going for like more of like kind of like a disability thing in this movie. Like Finding Nemo had like more of a subtle way it dealt with disabilities and stuff. Like Nemo had like a smaller fin, like a little bit bigger fin, but it wasn't shoved in your face. This movie isn't bad about that. It's just more interesting. It's more like pointing it out to you that all these fish have disabilities. That's why they're at this aquarium, and it makes sense for why. And then there's another fish, or I guess he's like I don't know, dolphin thing, where he can't really he can't do his echolocation, and so that's why he's there. And so it's interesting. We meet all these fish throughout here while Nemo and Marlin are trying to find Dory because they get separated at one point, but then they see each other again, and so we keep going through like we go through this thing, now we go through that. Thankfully it's not bad. Like it's all interesting what we get to see. And when we finally get to we get to this tank, and her parents aren't there anymore. They're gone. And so, but there's a fish that, or somebody tells them that her parents went to quarantine to find her. Yeah. And so she goes over there, and then we find out that they're no longer there. And so they think like, oh, they must be dead. And Dory does not take that well at all. And it's very like heart-wrenching. We're like, oh geez, like, are they really dead? And it's really sad, emotional, but thankfully we find out that they know they're still alive. They're just right outside the aquarium that they were at, and they even laid out all the shells, and Dory was able to find them, and it's real cute. But unfortunately, they still got to rescue Marlin and Nemo, so we have to go through another few minutes where we get back into the truck that they were being carried into, so they don't get shipped off to Cleveland. So we go through that for a little bit, and once we get through the climax, they save her. They get saved, and then they have to save themselves because they didn't get in the bucket in time. So we go through kind of a wild car chase almost. And thankfully, we get back into the water, and the day's saved, and Dory and her parents are reunited, and they live right by Marlin and Nemo, and everything's fine. And it was great. I love this movie. Like, I can't believe like a sequel to a movie that I kind of like, but could understand why. Like, I understood why other people liked it, but I wasn't a fan. But I wanted to see how a sequel like this would work, and thankfully, it paid off, and I was interested the whole time. Like, I love the focus on disabilities and stuff. It was really emotional, and like I've dealt with anxiety and fear, and it's tough. And I know I understand Marlin a lot because he wants to do everything he can for his friends. Like in the first movie, he was just trying to make sure his son was okay. In this movie, he wants to make sure Dory's okay, but Dory can definitely handle herself. But you understand why. He's a good friend. Even though he makes mistakes every now and then, you still understand. He's a good friend, and I like that. It was great. Great movie. Some of the stuff that was kind of weird in this movie, that there's Sigourney Weaver. She's a voice in this movie. She doesn't really necessarily play anyone. She plays kind of herself, actually. We don't see Sigourney Weaver. We just hear her voice on a intercom. And it was weird. I was like, does she exist in this world? Like, it was weird, but I didn't mind it too much. It was funny, but I don't know, it was a nitpick, one of the only things that bugged me just a tad was they focus on disabilities in this movie, and there's clearly a like otter that's not super smart. I don't know if they're going with mentally challenged or anything, but they definitely play it for laughs, and I'm like, okay, but you're doing this stuff about disabilities. I mean, should we be making this joke? I mean, it's just a little nitpick, but it just bugged me a little bit. It wasn't terrible, but just something I noticed. But I would definitely recommend this film if you're a fan, definitely. Even if you didn't like necessarily love Nemo, but still like the film, like, definitely see it. It definitely changed my mind on I think Finding Nemo. I think this is just a better movie. Like, I'm glad to say that, like, there's a sequel that's better than the original. I'm not saying that doesn't happen. There's plenty of movies that are, but I'm glad when that happens, because then I'm like, oh, well, great. Now I think this makes the original better, because I like Dory, and I like the characters, so I'm glad they did something more interesting instead of retread the same thing a lot of other sequels do, and that's just boring. But yeah, definitely see this movie. It's a great. You're gonna have a great time. It's one of the better Pixar movies lately. I don't think The Good Dinosaur is really that great, but at least Inside Out was good. But anyway, this is one of the better ones. So definitely see it if you got the chance. But anyway, that was my review. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you want to see more, subscribe. If you liked it, like it. If you want to post a comment, do that in the comments section. Thanks for watching. You all have a great night. Take care.